Hello everyone. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Happy Friday morning. I hope everyone's feeling fresh. It's lovely here in Dublin. Just went for a little sea swim. Feeling great. We're going to have Aisling on of A-OK Nutrition hopefully shortly, and we're going to be chatting about the pill, her course breaking up with birth control, kind of in particular breaking up with the pill, and kind of she's a nutritional therapist, so we'll be going through some sort of nutritional strategies and maybe supplementations as well that you might be able to kind of take if you're kind of coming off the pill, um and if you're kind of looking, if you're on the pill as well, and kind of things just to kind of take into consideration. So yeah, she's just here, so hopefully we'll jump on. Fantastic. Here she comes. Hello.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you getting on?
Good, not too bad. Sorry, my lighting is so bad. Literally, my house is in darkness until about like 11 o'clock in the morning, unless I sit in the balcony and do it.
That's
So
all right. That's no
bear
problem.
with me. How's things?
Yeah, good, really good. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for
It's
having me.
Yeah, no problem. Your page was recommended to me by one of my clients and friends, and I kind of love all the stuff that you put out. So I thought it would be great to kind of have you on, especially to chat about um your course, kind of breaking up with birth control, and then all the kind of stuff that you put out as well about kind of anyone who's on the pill or looking to come off the pill.
Mhm.
Because I think that's something that's quite common, and people are a bit kind of confused, or they don't really have the information kind of about that in particular.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah,
my favorite topic. I literally talk all day about it,
Y-
and yeah, so
yeah.
excited to chat.
um, So do you want to kind of like give it a little intro, kind of tell everyone about yourself, kind of what your background is, kind of how you got into this whole area in particular?
Mm. So my clinic obviously is AOK Nutrition, and I have a clinic in Portmarnock alongside my mum. So my background, or kind of my upbringing, was that my mum was a nurse and she was a midwife, and she kind of jumped ship. She changed careers, went in different paths. So by the time I came around, she was studying to be a naturopath and a herbal medicine practitioner. So she set up her
Fantastic.
clinic called Breath of Life in 1994. So we were kind of just brought up then with natural medicine. And then when I kind of got a bit older, it was something obviously I was quite interested in. So I studied nutrition. So I qualified about 7 years ago. So I've been working like full time as a nutritionist for the last maybe 4 or 5 years. And
Mm.
in relation to kind of like hormones, like, I kind of just fell into it. I think like we used to see, I still do see everyone. I obviously this is an area that I'm more passionate about, but like I'll see someone for
Mm.
gut health or sinuses or sleep or just kind of general issues as well. But I think because there's not enough conversation on it, like people are so interested in when you talk about it. So I kind of just fell into the last, I'd say 2 years, I'd say. And now I'm going at the moment and trying to be her medicine practitioner as well. So a lot
I
going on at
saw
the
that on
moment.
your
Yeah.
profile actually, which is very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like I have bit off a bit more than I can chew. Like, there's, as much as I know the herbs from being brought up with them, there's so much science behind it, so that it's fascinating. But
Mm.
it's just like, okay, you have to actually just sit down and do it, that way. So
Yeah,
fingers
yeah.
crossed, August 2022, I'll be a herbalist then as well.
Super. Brilliant. That'd be such a good thing to complement onto what you're already doing with the kind of nutritional therapy, nutrition
Yeah.
work. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like our
brilliant.
clinic now is both, like my mum is our herbalist at the minute, but like my mum wants to retire at some stage, and like,
Yeah, yeah,
I can't sell herbs as a nutritionist, so it's kind of just the next stepping stone that kind of made sense. And
yeah.
we get another
Super.
me in, and I'll be the next her, and we'll get another me
Yeah,
in.
I know. I relate that there's always like that thing. Like I'm now looking at doing kind of nutritional therapy as my next thing, as kind of a nutrition coach and personal trainer, and the kind of fertility awareness. Where I'm like, that for me is like my next string on the bow, which kind of rounds it all out. So, but I think I'd imagine if you're kind of like me or you, there's always that next thing that you want to do. You get to the next stage, and you're like, oh, that looks cool over there. So, but I think yeah, the herbal medicine is really interesting. So I think that'll be very cool to kind of see how
Yeah.
that comes into your work now in particular. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah, it's amazing. Such an interesting field. Like, there's no doubt the herbs are here for us. The way they work, and me, even out me learn the science of it, I'm like, it's just fascinating. Like, that's why herbs are here.
Mm.
That's we're here to use them, which is something that I think we've lost over generations. So, people like me can bring people back to understanding them now again.
Yeah, fantastic. And like, so when it kind of comes to the pill and stuff like that, like how, where do you kind of see that you're working with people the most on that, or what kind of are the most kind of types of questions that you tend to get, or
I guess even a good starting point is like what do people need to be aware of if they are on the pill and they're kind of choosing that as their form of contraception, which is a totally legitimate choice, but what nutritional things do they have to kind of keep in mind if they are choosing the pill?
Yeah, I think first of all, like my whole kind of view on kind of contraceptives and birth control, like it's kind of our generation is very much this kind of guinea pig generation. Like our mums weren't
Mm,
on the pill for 15 years, like this kind of thing. So I think there's some misconception in terms of like how it works, the side effects of it. Like I know when I was on the pill, say like 10 years ago, I definitely wasn't sat down in the GP's clinic being like, okay, do you understand? This is how it's working. These hormones are going to be switched off. You're not going to ovulate, which means
yeah.
X, Y, Z. These could be the possible side effects. You're just like, oh, this pill called Yasmin, that sounds grand. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I think there's a lot of misconception where, you know, people think it fixes issues. So I have clients who will write down on my consultation sheet, oh, I used to have irregular periods and then the pill fixed it. And I'm like, no, I used to have regular periods and then the pill switched off. So number one, I think there's a lot of misconception around it. In relation to nutrition linked with the pill, again, we know now that the pill does deplete certain nutrients. So like your B vitamins, and B vitamins I say are like anxiety, stress, energy, mood. So I kind of say to people on the pill, you're walking around a little bit kind of more on edge because you don't have as much B vitamins as someone who's not on the pill. So I think anyone on the pill should be told, here's your prescription, and now here's your B vitamins. So B vitamins are depleted, your zinc is depleted. Zinc is so important, especially for someone who is coming off the pill to get pregnant, because zinc helps make up your eggs, like your ovarian follicles, to help with fertility, help with ovulation. So, you know, helps with skin as well. A lot of clients I see get this kind of like post-pill acne. And I describe to clients like your body's watching the house burn down and it's trying to help, but there's no water to help. And the water is that zinc, basically, right? So your B vitamins, your zinc, and then gut health is really important as well. The pill does deplete gut bacteria. So again, like if we had more awareness, okay, you want to be on the pill, that's absolutely no problem. I think it's what people always think that I'm against pill. I'm not really. I think it's amazing we have this, you know, decision if we, as a contraceptive as well, if that's what we want to do. But it's more just like, okay, this is your decision. These are the side effects, and this is what you should do alongside it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is, and it's. I'm not going to say. Well, I guess it is a shame, really, because I was the same, like same as you. I turned 16. I'd kind of, you know, issues with my skin, all that kind of stuff. They're just like, yeah, here you go, and like, I do remember kind of getting the conversations about clots, and then as I got older and I kind of started getting migraines, they're like, okay, you shouldn't be on one that has high estrogen and stuff like that. So I remember the kind of like the big things where I feel like, are you a smoker? Like that kind of stuff. You know, I remember the kind of the big health concerns, but yeah, like whether it was just the information wasn't there or it's not kind of, I guess, readily available, that actually, you know, you're possibly going to have these things, especially about what you're saying about it switching off ovulation, which again, probably for you and me is so, it makes so much sense because we deal with it every day. But if you're just someone who's been given the pill to, as you said, regulate your hormones, like you don't necessarily understand that actually you're not producing any of your natural hormones anymore, which I think is a big thing. So do you want to kind of explain that for anyone who's listening who maybe doesn't kind of know that or understand that?
I think like it upsets me, actually. It's what I was going to say, it's probably the right word. It actually is the right word. It does upset me every single day. Like I see such young girls and they either go to the doctor or go to their medical professional and say, oh, I'm my periods are regular, and say, oh, we don't want to get pregnant, what's the issue? Like, and they're missing the bigger picture. Your ovulation's not just for getting pregnant, that's part of it. But you have two halves of your cycle. So ovulation's in the middle, and this first half of your cycle is your estrogen phase. And your estrogen's your real, I would say, like your get up and go hormone, your drive, your sex drive, your kind of, you know, if you want to sprinkling the wardrobes, you're going to do that phase. You're going to feel stronger if you're working out. Your mood's going to be better. And then you ovulate, and then we come into our progesterone phase. And your progesterone, I kind of say, is a little bit opposite. Like it's more calming. You know, it's really good for anxiety, really good for, I always say, excuse me for saying this, but like it's your like have your shit together hormone, where, you know, like women are so good at multitasking. You're just like, I'm on the walls, I'm on top of this, and I am superwoman. That is like your progesterone, I always say. It's just this amazing hormone when we have enough of it. So when you're on the pill, you have nothing. Literally your hormones like this, you're flatlined. Okay. So people might feel like, I have no sex drive on the pill, or I just feel a bit flat, or I don't get that boost of motivation. And you know what I mean? And especially I think putting such young women on the pill who haven't even figured out their personality, haven't even figured out, like I've girls come to me at 25 and they're like, I have no sex drive. And I'm like, no, you maybe started having sex, didn't want to get pregnant, which is absolutely fine, went on the pill and you switched it off, and you don't know. So again, if you were told back, you know, when you're going on to it, this could be a possible side effect, it's very, very common, a lot of women experience this, at least they know then, okay, this is completely normal, I'm not crazy. So this is something like the conversation around hormones, it's just so much more than like just ovulation and just making babies. It's like your whole
Yeah,
personality basically.
yeah, exactly. And I think it is like people forget, obviously, because I'm coming from more kind of like the fitness and the kind of the background side of it, or the kind of training and sports side of things, where, and again, you've seen the whole shift change where it was like, oh yeah, and like I've even had it, said to me, or kind of said to kind of friends or clients and stuff like that. They're like, oh yeah, that's normal, you're active. Like, don't worry about it, that you kind of have lost your period, or your kind of cycle's gone, irregular or out of whack or whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, again, doesn't necessarily matter if you're trying to get pregnant right now, but for all the other things that it does, like build strong bones, like really important estrogen and progesterone for building bone health. And you hear about people getting stress fractures and, you know, all of this sort of stuff where, some people do really struggle with different kind of menstrual cycle issues and everything, but for the most part, those estrogen progesterones, they do really, really important things. It's like our equivalent of testosterone, or, and we do have a little bit of testosterone. So we're almost like robbing ourselves that chance, especially if we're younger. Like I'm like, I went on the pill when I was 16. I just lost like 2 years of like peak bone, peak bone growth during those phases, potentially because, we don't fully understand what that impact is. Now I guess there's some research coming out on that, on bone health and everything, but it is kind of generally shown to kind of impact bone mineral density and stuff like that. So yeah, I just think it's so important, as you said, that people are just told this stuff so that they can make that informed consent when they're making their choices about contraception. Oh, we had a little question here.
Hi girls, off topic. I'm curious if you saw the World Health Organization said all women of childbearing age should be prohibited from drinking alcohol whether they want kids or not. I mean, are we living in dark ages? I mean, alcohol is an anti-nutrient anyway. It's not, but I don't know the massive link between alcohol and decrease in bone health.
Yeah, I think, well, sorry, I'm not sure what the context of it is, but I'm actually just reading It Starts with the Egg book by Rebecca Satchel. I kind of keep rereading it because it's really good. And she actually talks about alcohol in it.
Yeah.
And I think she makes reference to the WHO's guidance on that.
Yeah.
Where I think her take on it was that they're just saying, because people may not know when they actually first get pregnant, that they recommend that if you're trying to conceive, that you just don't have alcohol, because there's a chance you could actually be drinking while pregnant. So
completely agree with you, but not for every shot. Like, I mean, that's like from what, like 18 to 30.
Yeah. like I love my gin.
Yeah, like imagine. I'll take my chances if chances. Yeah.
So I guess going back to kind of the impact of the pill, and you kind of talked about the B vitamins and the zinc, which are both kind of really, really important. Is there anything else, like, you talked about the gut health as well, so that someone's kind of taking along with their B vitamins and zinc, they're also looking at maybe kind of taking probiotics or getting in kind of more pre-probiotic foods in, or kind of what would be your recommendation, say if I was a client coming to you and I was like, hey, I want to go on the pill, what should I be thinking about?
So like I can say, like, my non-negotiables, everyone is on zinc, B vitamins, probiotic. If you feel anxious, magnesium also gets depleted on the pill.
Okay.
Even if your diet is good, I don't think it's enough. Like what I describe to clients in relation to B vitamins, I'm sure everyone watching this is gonna relate. So you've had too many drinks on a Saturday night, you wake up on Sunday, the Sunday fear, that real jittery, anxious, I'm like, I can't look at my phone, you're driving and it's almost hard to drive because you're so jittery, right? That is like an extreme case of no B vitamins, that when you drink alcohol's diuretics, you're peeing out all your B vitamins. You could even come home early and have a 10-hour sleep, you're still knackered the next day. Okay. Yeah. So people who are on the pill, it's like you're going around day to day, that kind of like almost on edge all the time. So definitely like non-negotiable is your B vitamins. Like I said, zinc and a probiotic. I have a thing on my website called the Pill Pack with those 3 supplements, and I completely I'm like, these are just supplements I literally put together in a bundle. Like anyone can go out into a health shop and buy them. It's not like you have to get them from us or anything. It's not like a special pack.
Yeah.
And then like again, diet wise, like you can get B vitamins from your whole grains, you get magnesium from your leafy greens, but I think you have to supplement. Like your body can compete with a steroid drug. That's what the pill is. It's a steroid drug. And again, by calling it Yasmin or like, Clara, like it just makes it sound like one of your mates up the road, but I think is worse again. I think call it what it's called. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why are you making it sound so? It's just so when you're 17, you're not like, oh my God, what is this? What is this? Like 27 long words I can't pronounce. Like, So it's like, it's like a form of marketing almost for us, like to be like, oh, it's just Clara. Like, so, I don't think even diet wise, like I said, can compete with something like that. I think supplements are really important in this kind of situation.
Yeah, yeah. And we actually had a question there just come in
Yeah.
about, I think, prolactin. It leads in kind of nicely about which I was going to ask about for those who were on the pill who are looking to come off it,
Yeah.
and kind of what should look at. So I think it's like prolactin levels were high after
Yeah.
coming off the pill. What does this actually mean, and what are the implications of
This
this?
is really, really common. I see so many women high prolactin. So generally what prolactin is, it's the hormone that's released when you're breastfeeding. So this is
Mm.
your body's way of stopping you getting pregnant. You literally have like a newborn baby. So prolactin goes up, ovulation stops, but it is common post-pill. I actually don't understand the mechanism why it happens. I think it's more
Mm.
like your hype, so in your brain, this kind of controls all your hormones. I think this is kind of like almost like recalibrating a little bit, and it can put up prolactin.
Okay.
But stress also puts up prolactin as well. So sometimes I look at clients and I'm like, would their prolactin be high anyway and the pill was masking it? You know what I mean? So stress in forms of things like even over exercising, under eating calories, like low body weight, that can actually increase prolactin. So definitely some people, it could be post pill, but it could be that this actually would have happened anyway, and it's lifestyle and it's just the pill masked it. So like I said, see a lot of people with prolactin. Number one, you have to address the stress. If the prolactin is through the roof, if it's higher than maybe 600 on a blood test, I would go, your GP is probably aware of this anyway, but sometimes it's so rare, but sometimes you can have like a benign tumour on the pituitary gland, which is where the prolactin is produced. So sometimes you need to go for an MRI and just rule that out, and that come back clear, then you know, right, it's defo, lifestyle, diet, that kind of thing. So we use, have you heard of chasteberry before, Agnus castus?
Yeah.
That's a herb that we use. It's specifically, it's again, the science behind it, and I'm learning this now. I'm like, oh my God, I love herbs so much. Chasteberry specifically lowers prolactin. That's how it works in the body. So it's amazing for stimulating. Like you've probably heard of it helping people take for PMS and this kind of thing.
Yeah,
it works
exactly.
by lowering prolactin. When prolactin goes down, your progesterone comes up. Magnesium is quite important. Vitamin B6 is specifically for lowering prolactin levels. And then again, like reducing HIIT training. Like we love our HIIT training, but I'm always like, are you running from there or are you going for a run? Like which one is it? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's loads that you can do. I'd say don't be too concerned about it. If it's post pill, it normally comes down naturally after maybe about like 6 to 12 months.
Okay, perfect. And then, you know, for someone who's say coming to you and they've been on the pill, what would you generally be recommending for them to kind of look at nutrition wise or lifestyle wise if they're kind of planning to come off the pill, just in general, but then second to that, specifically if they're looking to try and conceive, say in the next kind of year?
Yeah, so I always say to clients, give yourself 3 months. So the big thing here, so our eggs and our ovaries take about 3 months to fully develop, and then when they get released at ovulation, depending on how healthy those eggs are, determines how much hormones you make. And the more hormones you make, the better time you're going to have, basically, right? So we want to make sure your eggs are really, really healthy. And the problem is, if you come off the pill and your B vitamins are low and your zinc is low and your gut health's not great and you've no magnesium, your eggs aren't going to be that healthy, which means maybe you're not going to ovulate straight away. Maybe you're going to get your period back and have a lot of PMS or heavy periods. So I'm always like, give your body 3 months before coming off the pill. So for example, like the pill pack, you know, I mentioned a few minutes ago, like I would say to clients, take that for 3 months. If you're trying to conceive, I would just give them, like I use the NHP fertility supplements, you know that brand? It's brilliant. It's a really, really good brand. The Natural Health Practice is the name of it, but I would get them to take that for the 3 months before. That has your B vitamins, your zinc. It just has other nutrients as well that would be kind of specific for fertility. You know, you'd be looking at your vitamin D levels. I just kind of go up the ante on what supplements I would give, especially if someone, like I have a lot of brides that come to me, for example, especially poor COVID brides, and you know, things have been pushed back a year and they're dying to have a baby, they don't have before the wedding. So like they're literally like, I'm coming off the pill the day after the wedding. Like I want to get pregnant straight away. So those kind of clients, like we have them on the fertility supplements now. We have them on omega-3s. We have them on your vitamin D now. So be well prepared then when they come off in 3 months' time.
Yeah, and it lines up nicely as well, because they say as well with folic acid or folate that you should be on that kind of the 3 months leading up to kind of trying to conceive as well. And as you said, like I think that's another thing. I remember when I first came across that a couple of years ago, when I was like, it takes what? How long for your egg to fully mature? Because you know, in your head you're like, yeah, it just matures in that cycle. But if you think about it, it's actually kind of growing there. So 3 months, it's way longer than you actually
and
you actually
is
think.
The same. Like especially with lads, like you sit down your partner and you're like, you can choose for 3 months. That's all I have to do. Literally 3 months, nothing else. It's such a small space of time. Like so, it's like, you know, and that brand, the NHP, they have a really good male supplement as well. They have the full level of folate in them as well. So like you don't have to take an extra supplement into folate, which is kind of superior supplement to folic acid.
To
So
folic,
it's
yeah,
really,
yeah,
it's such a good supplement, like really, really good.
super.
Have a look. It's on our shop. You can get it anywhere again. It's in like any health shop.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, be able to get it.
Brilliant. And then for your kind of like the course that you do now, I know that's kind of wider, so it's breaking up a kind of birth control in general. Like what kind of stuff do you cover in that, or like what general sort of tips do you give to people?
Yeah, so like the reason I did it, so I was having so many women just coming to me saying, I'm not health, or I'm not, I've no issues. I just want to come off the pill, and I'm terrified. Right? I've been on 50 years. What do I do? So seeing this again and again and again, so I was like, look, I can literally do this to the masses, because our whole clinic is personalized nutrition, where this is the same for everyone. So breaking up birth control is an online seminar. I'd love to do it. So initially, before COVID, I had a seminar called Periods and Prosecco, where I want to like sit and have drinks, talk about hormones. Like obviously COVID just wrecked it. So hopefully, you know, someday we'll be able to sit and have chats in person. But so first thing I talk to clients about is how your cycle works. Like this just baffles me that we're not literally sat down even every single year in school, right? Let's go over this again, like as a refresher. And I don't mean like, I laugh and think about like, you know, junior cert science where you're learning about the ovum and the fallopian tube. Like it's so irrelevant to what actually is happening in our body. So first I'll sit down and explain your hormones, explain that estrogen progesterone phase, explains why you get PMT, explain where heavy periods come into play. I talk to them about alternative contraception, like if they don't want to be on hormonal contraceptives. I talk to them about when to expect ovulation and how to track your body temperature. We talk a good bit about post-pill acne, because that's really common for a lot of women. Like some women never had acne to come off, and they're like, oh my God, what is happening? And it's just this side effect of the pill. And then we talk about supplements, and yeah, so it's I love doing the seminars. They're usually about like an hour and a half to 2 hours like this, like sit and have the chats, people ask questions, like really informative. So it's really fun to do them. And I love now I'm getting those emails from say clients, or not clients, girls who say did the February seminar, like, oh my God, I'm about to get my period, like I'm off the pill, did the 3 months, you know what I mean? So it's amazing to see that. Or people getting pregnant and like, oh my God, I got pregnant so quickly. So yeah, it's really
it's class.
doing them.
It's so nice. I'm the same as you. All my kind of the training with your cycle seminars and kind of the work with your cycle, it's all been online. So I'm like, I'm gonna maybe do one in person, and it's kind of a whole new exciting kind of way to approach it. But I do love the Periods Prosecco. Great title. I know we had a question come in, I think, about the pill, on Yasmin pill and train for hypertrophy in the gym. Would I still experience stronger, weaker strength due to cycle? Feels like I do. I also emotional every day, every 3 weeks without fail. Could this be cycle? Yeah, so the pill is kind of different. It kind of depends on what pill you're on and kind of what the estrogen levels are. Basically, how it works is like, I was actually saying, your hormones are completely flat. But if you think of like, especially if you're on the monophasic, like you get that spike in hormones and then you kind of drop down to kind of a kind of baseline. Now, this is the synthetic hormones in the pill. You take it at the same time. It peaks for 12 hours and then kind of comes back down. You kind of get these waves. So I always kind of coach people to think about like and this is based on the Dr. Stacey Sims course, which I actually think when I was doing that, and I was like, this is a great tip. Now, not everyone is going to be able to adjust when they're taking their pill, but if you can try and time your training to be not within that 12 hours after you've just taken the pill, on the other side of the 12 hours, because if you think of that 12-hour window when you're getting the spike of the synthetic hormones, it's similar to when we're in the high hormone phase, which is kind of phase 3 and phase 4, when we're going into that kind of into PMS. So we'll be more similar to when we're in phase 1, when our kind of hormones are low, outside of that 12-hour window. So if you're looking to train, you're looking to kind of train within that window ideally, but it's not going to be possible for all of us. And then for me, from a training point of view, I just recommend like tracking how you're feeling then on your break week as well, and kind of adjusting it based on that. I can't remember which type. There is one that tended to have higher gains in hypertrophy, but it wasn't higher gains in strength. So women who kind of were training with their natural cycle had better more during the first half of the cycle, had better gains in both muscle gain and in strength training. But then those who were training on the pill had better gains in muscle gain, but not in strength gain. So it's kind of, but again, there's actually a really good paper. I think it's like Thompson et al, and that's 2020. And that kind of does an overview specifically from a resistance training point of view. And there's not that much out there. Like, it's kind of annoying. There's like 4 papers on like, you know, trying to do phase-based resistance training, and you're like, okay, cool, that's all we have at the minute, so we're just going to go off.
Yeah, mad.
But it's mad. I'm going to see then. Would you recommend the same supplements for someone with the coil as someone on the pill, or are there different supplements they should be on? That's actually a great question. Do you want to kind of jump in on that?
Depends what coil you're on. If it's the copper coil, like the non-negotiable is zinc. Zinc and copper compete for absorption. Then you have to have another disclaimer that zinc and iron compete for absorption. So if you're like a vegan or a vegetarian, don't have any iron in your diet, very low, like proper like heme iron, you have to be really, really careful supplement with zinc. But this is the thing about the copper coil, just say really quickly. So like, you know, the copper coil always gets linked with like your periods are going to get heavier. Whereas what I find is just me kind of from experience the last kind of 7 years working with clients, I see someone with heavy periods, my first thing is their zinc. Your zinc is one of the key nutrients for heavy periods because it works on immune response as well. So I think this heavy period linked with the coil is actually just a side effect of being low in zinc while on the coil.
Interesting.
So a lot of my clients who come to me and they're on the copper coil, they're grand. Their periods aren't heavy. So, because I'm like, take your zinc, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Marina and the Kalina coil are a little bit different because they're localized hormones. They actually don't deplete nutrients the same way the pill does. They don't deplete gut health the same way that the pill does either. Generally as well, once you're on the Marina or the Kalina coil, you will actually ovulate as well. So that's kind of like, when I'm talking about kind of recommending contraceptives, I can't talk about like natural cycles or like tracking methods, copper coil, and then like the Marina or Kalina coil, just because what will happen sometimes is your ovulation generally will stop at the start, because I can say your body's a bit freaked. It's like, oh my God, what is going on here? And then
what are these weird hormones?
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's just going to take time to adjust. But then actually your cycle does actually kick in again. Now the progesterone, which is so different to our own hormone progesterone. Our progesterone, like Mother Nature. Progesterone, which is the artificial hormone in the Marina coil and the Kalina coil, it kind of acts more like testosterone in the body. So you might find like your skin is a little bit oilier, you might be getting breakouts, hair loss is quite common, or hair growth. And mood, I think the biggest thing, like my disclaimer, anyone going to the Marina coil is, I'm like, watch your mood. If you're someone who suffers with anxiety or depression, I find it very hard to recommend it. But it's actually, in terms of like, damage is probably the strong word, but in terms of the effect it has on the body, it's actually not too bad. Like, it doesn't really have major issues like nutrient depletion or effect on gut health.
Yeah, and when I'm coaching from the training point of view, I kind of, not lump sounds terrible, but I kind of group them into like natural and coil and then pill, because, you know, for the most part, being on the coil is going to be very similar from a hormonal profile point of view. Like, you might not ovulate for the first couple of months, or it kind of depends for different people, but that's on the progestin ones, but on the copper coil you'll still be ovulating. But yeah, even that, like, I don't think people realize that you still are ovulating even with the hormonal ones. You know, it's just that the environment isn't set up for kind of implantation, and that's kind of how it works as the contraception. So I'm loving how many questions we're getting. It's so interesting. I'm on the mini pill 4 years and I'm 45. Have completely lost my sex drive, and is changing to Marina coil help get it back? Yeah, what's the impact on the Marina coil with kind of sex drives and stuff like that, or have you come across anything?
Depends on the person, I think. Like, I laugh all the time when I look at contraceptives. We go on contraceptives not to get pregnant. No one has sex. Like, the pill kills sex drive. Like, for that one, when you're 45, you're after wasting 4 years being on a contraceptive, which not just come off it and track your cycle, get to anybody, even use condoms. If you had really good sex twice a week with condoms, that's probably more than you're having, even if you go into the Marina coil. Do you know, that kind of way? So I think pregnancy is a huge thing. And as well, people understand you can only get pregnant for 6 days of the whole month. And why this is not drilled into us when we are in school is beyond me. Like, literally 6 days of your entire cycle. If women knew that more, it's just even more freedom around that. So for that woman there, I wouldn't be guaranteeing that the Marina coil is gonna help your sex drive either. Like, you're still putting artificial hormones into your system. I would say, like, something that dampens down your own body's ovulation. I think your own hormones aren't still as high as they should be. So I should maybe report back, Sinead, and let us know.
Yes, see you're getting on. But I think it's so interesting about the schools thing. Like, I've gone into a couple of schools. Again, COVID came and massively messed that up. But and like, it's fascinating because I'm like, no one, like, I went even back to my old school and I was like, this is so emotional because I'm like, no one tells you any of this. And like like I'm doing kind of a fertility awareness course, and as part of it is the teen fertility, and I haven't gotten onto that yet. Kind of the same with you with the herb stuff. I'm like, yeah, great idea. I'll just have a side business plus another job, and then I'll just do this course. And I'm like, what, like, when am I going to do this? But anyway, I'll now have time to do it. But it's so fascinating. And even if you don't, as a kind of teenager, want to kind of rely on it as a form of contraception, which you can do as far as I understand, but I'm not kind of qualified in that yet. But it's just really useful tool to understand how you're feeling. Like cycle tracking is a way to be like, what are my moods like? What are my energy like? Do I have certain symptoms? Like it's so empowering kind of seeing, because you see those patterns and then it makes sense and you're not so emotionally kind of tied to them. You can kind of have that distance and be like, well, actually, I'm going to just give myself a bit of self-compassion here. Or I'm going to kind of drop my training down, or kind of, I know that actually I just don't really want to see my friends, or I really want to see my friends, so.
Every woman in the world has hormones. Everyone. Like literally half of the population go through it. So it's just, why is it not as something as common? I know how to brush my teeth. Oh, I know how to track my cycle. Like it's just bizarre that it's something that it's so relevant to literally every single person in the half population, and it's just not like something we're so aware of, the way it's
yeah,
mad.
I know, it's mad.
Yeah.
The next one is, I plan on coming off the pill this month. Should I wait and take the pill pack that you recommended once off it, or should I start taking them for a while before coming off the pill?
So sometimes like that, people are like, oh, I just want to come off the pill. I don't want to wait another 3 months. So I'd say get in the pill pack straight away, and then continue to take it for another like 3 months. Then take it on the other side for the 3 months.
Yeah.
It just depends. Sometimes that girl might get her period back straight away. Sometimes it might take a few months for ovulation to kick back in. So you could do that either way, either side, like 3 months post or 3 months afterwards.
Yeah, and just kind of give yourself that lead time on the other side. And the other one then is, how long generally should you give your body to regulate again post pill, off it 3 months and not fully regulate? Thank you.
A year, 12 months. Like I would say go for bloods if you haven't got a period after 6 months coming off the pill. But it can take a long time because, again, our hormones and our ovulation are affected by stress, by our food, by our exercise, by our lifestyle. And people who are on the pill, it's like as if you almost have a get out of jail free card for a couple of years. Because I know if I get my period too early, I'm like, okay, crap, I was obviously stressed this month. Basically, for anyone who doesn't know, like early cycles, anything less than say 25 days, we consider lack of progesterone, and stress is progesterone, right? So if I get my period too early, I'm like, right, Ash, I need to read it in, like this isn't right? But someone on the pill, they could be living this mad stress life, not looking after themselves, and they're getting this monthly bleed. So like, oh, I'm grand. They come off the pill and they're like, well, I don't have a period. That's really weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's so individual based. And this is something people always ask me in breaking up a birth control, when can I expect to get my period back? I'm like, if I knew that, I would be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Like, be this psychic and telling you it's so different for everybody. But generally, I say give your body at least 6 months, and then if you haven't got it back in 6 months, I would just go and get bloods done, because your bloods will tell you exactly what's going on. Like the bloods are literally like a roadmap to what you need to know, basically.
Yeah, exactly, and that kind of help you pinpoint it. But it's so interesting, like on the pill as well, and like you hear stories about kind of athletes, kind of at elite levels, but even not kind of sub elite levels, of they're being on the pill and that masking that they actually had hypothalamic amenorrhea. So they that's kind of contributing towards things like those stress fractures and stuff like that, because you're firstly, obviously you're depleted, but then secondly, you're not even kind of taking in the nutrients, and you're overtraining and stuff like that, which normally your cycle would be a red flag or an indicator that something might be going on. I'm the same as you. Like the minute I'm like, oh, didn't ovulate that month, or like cycle is short, like my cycle is 25 days this month, and I'm like, whoa, okay, obviously you were doing too much this month, you're too stressed because you just changed jobs and all that kind of stuff and gone solo. So like that's a real sign for me, and using that as a tool has been so powerful, because I feel way better. Everyone's like, you look so great, and I'm like, yeah, because I'm fucking listening to, sorry to curse, but like I'm listening to my body in a way that I never really did before. So I would have just pushed through it and kind of burnt out beforehand, that sort of way. So it's a real like,
I think
hands
people
up.
don't realize, like, your period, I would say, is one of the vital signs of health. Like if you get a period, that basically means that you've ovulated most of the time. Sometimes you won't get into that right now, but most of the time you get a period, you've ovulated, right? That is your body's way of saying, Ash, I'm happy. This is great. Like let's take a baby. Like the environment is good. So on the opposite side, if your body feels like you can barely look after yourself at the moment, why in God's name would it let you get pregnant to look after yourself? So you know what I mean? It's like your body's way of saying, yeah, keep going, keep doing what you're doing. This is really good. Like, I'm happy with you. It's really important. Yeah, really, really important.
And it's so funny, so like as you're talking the kind of BBT temperature and stuff like that, and looking at the cycle, because again, using the example, I actually ovulated this month, but I ovulated A, a little bit earlier, which is unusual for me, and B, but my luteal phase was still short again. And that for me is like telltale sign that, yeah, exactly, then starts. And I only noticed that because I used to have like a 28-day cycle. I was like, it's totally normal. But then I started this, I can't remember, this was a couple of years ago, and I started doing the kind of taking my temperature. And I realized that I wasn't actually ovulating until like day 21. I think like one stage I had like a 7-day luteal phase, and I'm like, oh, genie macros, that is, that's not good. But so it's these other things, and like they're like different levels, I guess, to cycle tracking or kind of menstrual cycle awareness and all that kind of stuff. But things like your cervical fluid, BBT stuff, they just help you pinpoint if and when you are, which is so important.
Well, I think it's so important for women to understand as well. So a lot of us, like, you're going to your teens, in your 20s, and a lot of us, our goal, or we'd love to have a baby down the line, right? So PMT, your heavy periods, your cramps, your pain periods, people are suffering with those short cycles or longer cycles. This could be lack of progesterone, which is quite common, right? PMT is always lack of progesterone. That's what it is, right? And then when you go to get pregnant, progesterone is the hormone that maintains pregnancy. So if you're someone who suffered with periods your entire life or really short cycles, you might have more trouble getting pregnant as well. So it's like, it's like this whole roadmap almost. You have to address it now. When people like come to me for fertility and they've had really bad periods or, really short cycles, and they never realized that was an issue. They're like, oh, it's great. You know what I mean? My periods are really light. It's brilliant. Like, where actually that was your body saying, we're not making enough hormones here. So it's important to understand that, like, healthy periods then going on will support you in fertility journey if that's what you want to do then as well.
Yeah, I think it's such a good point, and like so misunderstood, as you were kind of saying. There's another question here. Off the pill 8 months, still really irregular periods. My last cycle was 38 days. Ashling, taking your probiotic zinc, dim and milk thistle as my post pill acne is crazy too. Oh, sorry, it's actually a statement. Good job.
So post pill acne, as I say to like all my clients, it's like, so you come off the pill, it's normally with like Yasmin, Yaz, Dinet, those three are kind of the ones you get given for acne, and your skin is amazing. You're like, oh my God, this is brilliant. And you come off it then. It's generally 6 months post pill. So you come off the pill, you're like, this is brilliant. You might even have a few regular cycles. And then what happens is it kind of gives us like post pill, like an androgen surge. So all of a sudden your testosterone might flare up and you start getting oilier skin and your cycles might become a bit irregular. And this skin then might flare from 6 months to 12 months. And so many people I see, they freak out and they go back on the pill. They're like, I can't handle it. But I'm like, clients, just ride the wave. If you can get to the 12-month mark, the end is in sight. It's normally an 18-month process. So it's hard to do on your own, but like there's so much we do like that. That girl saying like zinc dim is basically what it is, like the extract found in leafy green veg, and I describe it as like the bus that comes along and collects your hormones, right? So you can take it as a supplement. Now I never really give it until about like, at least sometimes with my acne clients, I'm like, wait until your skin is fair enough, then let's go in with the dim. I wouldn't give people it continuously because it's quite strong. I say, like, it's like your little get out of jail free card, wait until you need it. But there's a lot you can do. The dim will help kind of like lower testosterone levels. Like I said, your zinc there is going to help lower testosterone as well. So the post pill acne is a big thing as well. So it's awful for women. Like, you could be 35, want to get pregnant. I'm
trying to remember if I had it. Like, because I came off the pill before I kind of got into all this stuff, and I'm trying to remember. But I definitely would have had bad skin. So like, even that, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of probably could have done with all of this when I was because I feel like I went on Roaccutane. I was on Roaccutane, but I'm trying to think if
was that before or after?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, and you're like, what actually is my own medical history? I'm like, that's really interesting. I wonder if I did it. Did it afterwards or before. There's another, why do you have pain when you're ovulating? I feel really tired and have no energy.
Ovulation pain is tricky. It's common, but it shouldn't leave you like bed-bound kind of thing. Sometimes it can be excess estrogen already. Like, estrogen peaks before you ovulate. So if you already have estrogen dominance or estrogen excess, and estrogen comes from like maybe too much cow's milk dairy, it can come from poor quality animal protein, it can come from too much soy in your diet. I have a very love-hate relationship with soy. There's so much research saying soy is okay. I know, I've seen it with clients. Like, I cannot ignore, I take some off soy and they're better in a month. So it's just, I'm so conflicted with that, because it's like, more and more people say, soy is great. So anyway, that's another side. I'm like, there's so many things we can have. I prefer not to put people on that. And then our environment. So like the things called xenoestrogens, which are your plastics, your fake tans, your moisturizers, shampoos, conditioners. So as women, we kind of put this excess estrogen to our system. And then what happens to be, when you're meant to peak at ovulation, your estrogen's already high. So even from a sex drive perspective, you don't get that peak because it's high all the time.
Mm.
I would also check your B12. B12 is one of the most important vitamins for hormones, because what I've mentioned there with estrogen being built up, B12 comes along, it's like it breaks it all down. Okay, so it helps there. It's called methylation. It breaks down all of your hormones. If you're lacking in B12, your body cannot break down your hormones properly. And the range for B12, like anyone listening, if they've got recent bloods done, go and take out your own blood test. Like be proactive with it, because the range for B12 is from like 170 to 800. So I saw a client yesterday, she was 205, and it wasn't flagged because that was within range. Do you know what
I
I
know
mean?
that drives me mad. I always tell,
Like,
again, because like I'm not qualified to do the blood sum. I was like, when you're going to the GP, like ask them what's optimal. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, just don't be like, cool, that's within range. Being like, what ideally should this be if they see anything that's outside of the optimal ranges? Because
yeah.
some of the ranges are mad. Like,
But
you know
like,
what I mean?
this is what I mean. Like, and what's normal for you? Like, you have to look at all of your different factors. So B12 is one I'm
Mm.
so strict on. Like, I want my clients above 600 kind of thing. So I find B12, because it's linked to kind of like inflammation, and or more so if you're lacking in B12, inflammation be higher. That ovulation
Yeah.
pain can be linked. And I'm sure that woman probably has kind of cramps as well around the cycle, and probably gets sore boobs. There's probably a other kind of reaction there as well with the ovulation pain. Omega-3 is also quite good to be taking around ovulation. And I know, like a broken record, but your zinc is brilliant. Zinc is like the key for hormones. It's just so important. So, you know,
Yeah.
I look at diet, I look at nutritional deficiency for ovulation pain.
Yeah, fab. And also the sore boobs thing is such a thing. I like had one time my boobs were so sore. This is like we're just having a real talk from kind of just my hormones being totally whack when I was going through that really stressful period, and to the point that I was like, "Fuck, I have a lump," and I went to the doctor, and she was fantastic about it all. But I was like, a little part of me, I told her, I was like, "Look, I actually think as well this could just be that I'm having really bad PMS and my hormones are totally out of whack."
Yeah.
So she was like, "Why don't you wait and see? And if it dissipates once you've kind of had your period," she's like, "Obviously I can refer you if you want." She's like, "It doesn't feel like anything, more serious." She's like, "I think you're right," or whatever. And it was. And you're just like, but it's so like, I was like, this is going into my arm. Like I was like, this, when you're like, it's like, and people are like, "Oh yeah, sore boobs." And I'm like, no, that was my first time and really my only time of having like sore boobs linked to kind of hormone imbalance. And I was like,
I know
wow, that
sometimes like
is,
I have quite big boobs, so like I'd be running down the stairs like this sometimes
yeah,
if my boobs are sore. And it drives me mad if I get so I was around day 21, my boobs get sore, and I'm like, rats, I didn't like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
your periods, I say to clients, like your monthly report card. So it tells you like how good or how bad you've been that month. And like literally when you get your period, it's a new chapter. Like you have 28 days or whatever, 35 days to kind of make a change, right? So if I get sore boobs, I'm like, okay, I didn't do it, I was bad this month. Like I know straight away because it's only stuff.
Yeah, something was out of whack.
Yeah, drives me. If anyone gets really sore boobs, starflower oil is amazing. I think EPO, like evening primrose oil, is kind of the one that we're kind of brought up learning about. Starflower oil is way more potent, and what it works on is basically these things called prostaglandins, and they're like kind of like, best to describe them, they're like your pain receptors. So we don't want those pain receptors, we want them to be low, and like starflower oil helps to reduce prostaglandins, so there's not as much pain there. It's brilliant. It's really good for sore boobs specifically.
Super. And then we had one at the end, sorry, mine was kind of a question. What should I do to get my cycle back regular? Am I just being impatient? Should I wait the 12 months like you said? Appreciate all your advice on Instagram.
That girl said, how irregular is her cycle?
I'm just going to scroll up. I think
How
she
long
asked
generally?
above. Yeah, so she was saying that was the girl who was saying actually that she's been taking the probiotics and zinc and DM and milk piss and all that kind of stuff. So she was also asking,
sorry, mine was kind of question, what should I do to get my cycle back regular? Am I just being impatient? You need to, I think if you're suffering with postpartum acne and stuff like that, it's the excess testosterone, so that's going to knock off your cycle. Like your body gears up to ovulate and then it's like, oh my god, there's too much testosterone here, absolutely not happening kind of thing. So you kind of just have to, again, like ride the wave a little bit and wait the 12 months and then go back and get bloods done then to see what's going on. But it's like, it's very common for that to happen. At least it's not like it's really common. Like it's not like it's something that's a bit unusual. And we're saying, why is your cycle going irregular? Like I would have explained your cycle's probably going to go regular, that kind of way.
Yeah.
For sure. Someone before asked you, how do you make more progesterone? Can you
I missed that one.
to help? Okay, so oh god, our beloved progesterone. People have to understand the main thing that makes our progesterone low is stress. So this is why so many people suffer with PMT, because we're all absolute mad animals up the walls. So I think supplements are actually so important here. I'm like, thank God we have supplements, because the life we live is not the life we are designed we're not designed to function at this level. Like, so like I'm kind of like, so your B vitamins I mentioned earlier help with stress, magnesium helps with stress, and all of a sudden you're still up the walls, but your ability to cope is a bit better. So your body doesn't really feel the need to steal your progesterone every single time to make your stress hormones. Then I also say to clients, address what you can address in relation to stress. So like, look at your sleep. That's something we can all work on. And the other really important thing actually is blood sugar balancing. So I know so many women watching this now being hungry. Like, would you get hungry?
Yeah.
So when you are hungry, literally what happens is your blood sugars like plummet, okay? And your body releases stress. It's literally like, Ash, are you for real? Can you go eat something? Because I'm fucking starving. And that real shooter, you'll be real cranky with someone on your know. But people might let this happen 3 or 4 times a day. They kind of wait, especially people who work from home at the moment, are just disasters, because you don't have your pal being like, oh, we go for a coffee at 11 kind of thing. You're working away and you're like, oh my God, it's 4:30. I forgot to have lunch. Yeah. So when blood sugars drop, you release unnecessary stress. So you might be up the walls in work, but one thing you can control is your blood sugar levels. And again, let's look at the, your monthly report card. If you're letting blood sugars drop twice a day for 30 days, how much progesterone did your body steal to make stress hormones in that?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, progesterone is really tricky. The chasteberry herb I mentioned earlier on is brilliant. Foods in general, there's not really foods to help increase progesterone. Like, I mean, you can take things like chamomile tea. Your oats are really good for kind of more stress management, like your leafy green veg help with magnesium production. You can kind of like eat well to support your stress, but there's not really much foods that like physically increase progesterone from my perspective. Like, the nuts,
There's a
I
great,
don't think there's.
there's a great one by No Period Now. What's her name? Nicole Rinaldi. She does a great. I love her as well because she's very science based. So love the all references. But she has it's in her book, but then it's also, she's got an article on it up as well on her page, talking about the benefits of flaxseed, because obviously everyone's into seed cycling and stuff like that, and she kind of reviewing the literature behind it, and actually just flaxseed in general tends to I'm not going to even attempt to remember what it was. So flax seeds or linseeds and all that kind of stuff.
I would give all my clients that. So basically, again, talking about low progesterone and stress is the main thing that uses it up. The other reason progesterone is low is that estrogen is too high. So we have to work on both. So flaxseed it helps basically, I say, like mop up estrogens in your system, and then you need to look at like that, like I mentioned earlier, your cow's milk, your poor quality animal protein, your cosmetics, your plastics. So it's all well and good you being like, I'm going to meditate every day and take magnesium. But if your diet's awful and you have to look at both sides of it, and that's what kind of I explain to clients. So the progesterone side of things, it's really tricky. It is hard, like, and it's a real lifestyle, like cliche it sounds like. You have to kind of keep it up all the time, otherwise next month you're going to have the PMT then back.
And it is so important, like all of those things. The hunger awareness thing is massive. And again, like, I know I kind of go on about it a lot, and I did a post about it there, kind of talking about the difference between like a nutrition coach versus like a dietitian and nutritionist and all the kind of the different things. But like a lot of what I would do would be kind of those sustainable habit focused things. And one that I look at all the time is hunger awareness, and kind of coupled with eating at least 3 meals a day that have the 3 macronutrients in it, and obviously you're trying to get your micronutrients in as well. But like for so many of us, I'm guilty of it as well, is we like let ourselves go way too hungry, as you were saying. Like we're just like, my boyfriend is a coach as well, and they'll come in and like, I'm generally good, but sometimes I just forget, and especially I forget how active I can be sometimes. Sometimes you just it's especially if eating kind of, I guess, like clean or whatever, even though I don't like that term, but you know what I mean, kind of a more kind of whole food base. It's kind of hard enough to eat enough calories. He'll come in and I'll be like, I'm so wrecked, I feel awful, and he's like, have you eaten? And I'm like, yeah, I ate. And then I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that was a couple of hours ago. And you're just like, and then I have a snack and I'm like, I feel great. And you're like, it's like cue into those earlier signs of like, are you hungry? Are you starting to kind of get tired or fatigued? Are you getting irritable? Like, are you thinking about food? Like, all those kind of things. And we tune out of those, especially women, because we're so fucking bombarded with diet culture and all that kind of crap, being like, oh, you can't eat and you need to be eating like, 5,000 calories a day or whatever stupid messages right there. Obviously it's a massive bugbear for me, but like those we like lose connection with those hunger signals. And then to your point, if that's happening a couple of times a day, like what are you doing to your own body? Do you know what I mean? Which we don't think about. We only think about, oh, I forgot to eat,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so important. But it happens to me too, so it's okay if it happens.
All of it. I'm a disaster.
I know.
I say to my fiance, I'm like, I'm too busy to eat today. And he's like, I'm like, this is
I know.
inconvenient for me right now. And he's like, could you imagine if your clients heard you? And I'm like, do what I say, not what I do. But
Oh,
like,
I'm so bad.
and like, this is so annoying to sit and actually to eat. I'm like, oh my God, but I know the importance. It's like, and this is the thing, like if we can literally stand there knowing what we know and say, look, we do it too. Like, it's like, nobody
Yeah.
is perfect. It's just about understanding that, right, this actually isn't the best, and just making an effort then to try and be better. Like, do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like we're all like, we're all in the same boat.
And pick a few things, like pick it, like I'm a devil for it as well, like trying to just do all of it at once. And like, to be honest, again, like I just I kind of like signed up to the habit thing more to take like screenshots, and I was like, I'm just going to stay on my own habit program, because I kind of need myself, like future
Yeah.
me coaching current me, because you're just like, oh yeah, kind of what was my hunger today, or actually did I drink enough water, and like did I kind of take a rest, because you just kind of forget these things. So like, firstly, self-compassion, because we're all human and we can't be perfect. And even trying to focus on having the perfect diet and getting all the right supplements and doing all the right things and eliminating all the, like, you know, endocrine disruptors that are out there in the world, you're not going to be able to do it all. And that in itself is going to be a stress. So like, pick your big rocks and focus on that. So, you know, to your point, if you're coming off the pill, like take your pack and that be your main thing that you're focusing on. Do that for a while. And then if you need to make a tweak somewhere else, just like did a little.
Yeah. The
But
last thing
yeah,
I'll say, 'cause this is so important for anyone listening, like literally stop everything you're doing and take this bit of advice. So when we talk about blood sugar balancing as well, so yeah, eat little and often is important, but making sure your meals are balanced. And what balance your meals and
yes,
keeps your blood sugar levels more stable is your protein. Okay. So when I say to my clients, I'm like, you have to plan your meals. So Irish mummies plan dinners, right?
yeah,
Irish mummies, we have steak on tonight, I'm doing a bolognese, I'm doing fish, and I'm this. They would never give you just a bowl of potatoes for dinner with nothing else. Your mom, you go there on a Sunday, there's not a hope she's going to give you a bowl of potatoes. And yet you would have had cornflakes for breakfast, or a slice of toast, or vegetable soup for lunch. Can we just deconstruct
I
that?
know.
It's a bowl of
Stop.
vegetables with a glass of water, and you have that with a side of bread. So when we just see carbs without the protein, our blood sugars go up really quickly and then they crash. So anyone, I know so many women, even from a weight loss perspective and this kind of thing, like I don't talk that much about weight loss, but obviously it's something that, you know, affects a lot of women. Like eating protein with your meals will keep you full, will stop you from getting as much sugar cravings, stop you from being hungry. So start looking at your meals, like, and even I think, I hate the phrase trying to be good, but like I see some clients and their breakfast is porridge and fruit, and their mid-morning snack is an apple, and then their lunch is homemade vegetable soup, and they're not lacking in micronutrients, so they're still getting nutrition in. There's no protein there. Like every single one of those meals are lacking protein. So you can have obviously your animal protein, which is like your meat, your fish, your eggs, your yogurts, your cheese. And then you have plant-based proteins like nuts and seeds and lentils and chickpeas and your hummus and your falafel. So something as simple as putting flax seeds, like we mentioned, so good for hormones, and a handful of nuts or a dollop of nut butter into your porridge. Now it's a balanced meal. Or if you do love your vegetable soups, start getting a tin of mixed beans or lentils, which is something, again, we're so bad at eating in Ireland, is like these plant-based proteins, and they're so important for hormones. Put those into your soup. So it's just really important people understand that, because I know like when people are trying to, like, again, be good or lose weight, they kind of eat less, and they're so if I want to, like, you know, fill up in the morning, I'll have like an omelette with 4 eggs, you know, and like I might leave that kind of thing if I'm not in the humor for it, you know, but it's always the protein that you need to get in that will keep you going.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, for anyone listening who's coming from more the training background as well, if you're not having enough protein, you're not going to adapt to your training. So your recovery is going to be really poor. And as well, kind of, again, I'm not massively into kind of, or sorry, not that I'm not massively into, but my main focus wouldn't be weight loss and stuff. But if it's something that is, people think body composition change is actually what you're going for. You're not looking for weight loss. You're looking to try and lose body fat, gain muscle. And you're only going to do that if you're eating enough protein to build the muscle and to recover from the training sessions that you're put on. Or also, if you're just like me, you just want to get strong or whatever, protein, like, it's just going to make such a difference. So yeah, it's like, does so many good things. But then if anyone wants to kind of find how to get in touch with you or kind of sign up for your kind of courses, if you have any coming up, what's the best way for people to kind of do that? Because I'm, you know,
my
seeing
DMs,
questions.
I can't give up Instagram or with my DMs at the moment. Like, it's so weird. Like, I have a full clinic, you know what I mean? So it's like I could probably work at Instagram full time at the minute. It's just like, which is amazing, but it's just, there's so much going on at the minute. So email's probably best. I'm good at keeping up with my emails. and I've no seminars yet. I feel like summer's not a great time for seminars. Like
I
no
know.
one, do you know what I mean? No one's be in like a sunny Monday evening kind of thing. So I probably will do them again maybe in September or October. I might do breaking up a birth control again maybe in July or August, because I have so many people asking me to do it. But yeah, follow me on Instagram. You can pop me an email if you have any questions. And
Yeah,
thanks for everyone who's
perfect.
Yeah, really good.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. The last question was just about where it's going to save. So I'm going to save this on to my Instagram TV, and it'll be on my grid as well. So you can kind of watch it back there. Long-term plans, I have great plans to try and put these all up on YouTube and on a podcast. But obviously that has not been a high priority with my time. But maybe now that I have a little bit more time, I'll finally get to it. But definitely on Instagram, on my grid. And Ashley, it's been amazing.
Yeah, it was so nice.
It's been really good.
Questions, it was so good. Yeah, have a good day.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
Bye, everyone.
It was great
Thanks
seeing you.
for
Okay,
watching.
bye.